How's it going there, everybody? This is Carpo. I wanted to read you another poem. This is going to be a ongoing thing I might do for my channel, but it's more for me than for you, but I hope you enjoy it. These are poems my father wrote, mainly back in the 80s and 90s, and after he passed away I received his book of poems that were left over. Honestly, it's a very small file at this point, so it won't take long, but I hadn't read this before. I really haven't read all of these before. For some reason I was saving them for a special occasion, and I decided I wanted to put them online for the world to see, because if anyone hears these words, it means that they weren't written in vain. You know what I mean? It's like when somebody writes a book, if no one reads it. You know, and I know poems are for ourselves, but I think he's been gone long enough to where he would be grateful for me to read this. And it's just a short 1.25 page. Oh, I guess there's a short poem after that too about it. It's about my grandmother, who we didn't really know very well, who shot herself with a shotgun, and my father had to drive us out there. So the writing is called Idaho Midnight, and it starts with, "The pre-dawn rain of spring was like a thick mist, and the hushed tones of conversation blended with the hiss of tires and the quiet bumping of the windshield wipers. We were traveling east to Boise, and the solitude of the dark freeway was wrapped around us almost as tightly as the arms of a mother crushing her children to her bosom. We spoke of whys and hows as my sister's Kathy car ate up the miles on the way to our own mother's funeral. It was hard to believe that only a few hours before I had just sat down to relax with my after-work cup of coffee, and the phone rang, long distance, from Idaho. Michael, my brother, had called with the news that my mom had just taken her life. As the lights of laboring heavy trucks faded into the rearview mirror and grew somewhere in the windshield, I sipped a cup of hastily made coffee and drifted back to the last time I'd seen her, the last time I had driven this highway. The boys were growing restless after so many hours in the cramped little car, but the lure of completing the trip to Grandma's was far too strong to stop for a break, with only 50 miles left to go. We would be there soon. Joshua, for the first time in 10 years, he had been in diapers on the last visit. Nicholas, for the first time ever. Nick's my brother. "Who is their grandma?" was a common phrase. I could have told them. I didn't really know who their grandma was. For in truth, I wasn't sure that I did. She was my mother, but somehow the years and circumstance had taken their toll, and to be truthful, I wasn't even sure what kind of reception we'd receive. "This is my mom," was all I could say. Or "she's my mom," was all I could say. And that's where it ends. And you can tell he intended to make more, but didn't. And it goes on to this secondary little poem, I guess. I haven't read this yet. "We gathered there in Idaho one spring to bid adieu, a fond farewell, as it were, in honor of our mother. Just the three of you, and me. The bearer of the tale, a story of such lonely tragedy. Why did you leave when I'd only arrived at the doorstep of understanding? Why could you have not let us inside to see what kind of life you were living?" And that's it. I know my father had mother issues, and of course this is a very personal thing, and people are probably like, "Holy shit, why are you sharing that?" But because we all share the same story, the same tragedy. We all know somebody in our life that had problems, that had issues. Soon after after this was written, my father died a couple of years later of cancer. We all deal with the tragedy. We all deal with a lost parent. The irony of saying, "Who were you?" You know, what kind of person were you? It's the same question that I ask often. I had to make myself a man. I had to do what I could in this world. I know that sounds silly coming from a guy in a Santa suit, but you know where I'm coming from. So anyhow, I just wanted to share that. And, you know, getting it off my chest, I believe, gets it off his chest. And I think he'd want the world to know how he felt, or at least someone to know. And by reading it aloud, it helps me to kind of process it as well, if that makes sense. So, thanks for listening. Hope it wasn't too depressing. I know it can be a little overwhelming to deal with real life issues, but that's real life. Take care.